I'm James Demeter, and I want to tell you where the Tremulator came from. In 1982, Ry Cooder came up to me and said that he needed a tremolo effect. And at the time, believe it or not, there were no tremolo pedals in production. So he asked me if I could come up with one. Well, I came up with one that was kind of an original one, using a sine wave to generate the pulses on the optical unit. And it sounded good, but it wasn't quite right. So he said, Jim, what you really need to do is you need to get this. So he brought me his old Fender Twin amp from the 1950s and said, see what you can do and how close you can get to this. So I examined what it did, and discovered that what it did is it generated a triangle wave, but it flattened it. It clipped. And I said, aha, that would explain a lot of the good things you heard about it, with the volumes going up and down, but kind of staying up for a while, which the one I made did not do. So after a few months of playing around with it, I came up with a transistorized version that I was actually able to figure out how to do it with one battery. His original one had two, and low current, and sounded just like his unit. And he was so pleased that he actually, besides buying one for me, he bought one for Pop Staples, and he bought one for Dwayne Eddy, and he told all his friends, and I started getting into the pedal business, something I never thought I was going to do. Over the years, this has been put on the Guitar Player 50 Coolest Pedals of All Times list, and of course I made variations on the theme, some of which you can see here. I have here the Tremulator Pro, which I came up with about 5 or 6 years ago, that is pretty much identical to this one, but it has two different controls. This one doesn't have. Three different controls, rather. It has a gain control, which people have asked for years, and it has the way to change the waveform, as well as having the thing that is on the trim pot here, the bias control, which basically does the timing of how long the sine wave, the triangle wave, is on and how long it's off, and so you can vary things as time goes by. 1985 or 84, a studio musician named Steve Carnelli came up to me, and the original one was just a metal box with a Dymo label that said Tremolo, and he says, you should call it something else, and he said you should call it the Tremulator, and that's where the name came from. Steve Carnelli said, it's a Tremulator, and I said, that's a horrible name, I'll call it a Tremulator, and it's been that way ever since. And I also have, it kind of became a joke, so I also have the Fuzzulator, the Compulator, and pretty much put you later after the name of every pedal I ever made afterwards. And one more thing, the Tremulator pedals we make now, we have done some improvements. It now has the standard plug. The original ones had the little 1/8" plug, but no one uses those anymore, so we switched to the standard 2.1 millimeter barrel plug, and inside there is indeed the nefarious volume control, gain control rather, if you need to turn it down. It leaves the factory set with 1.5 dB of gain when you turn it on, but if that's too much or too little, you can get a screwdriver, go inside your Tremulator and turn it up or down 3 dB in each direction. That's it. I've been selling these for 42 years, and it's a great sounding pedal. Click, click.